but so good. Good morning. Headed northwest from Amarillo, Texas. I'm gonna go set up shop in Stratford for a little bit, hang out at the crossroads, contemplate storm chasing and life's mysteries. Seems appropriate to be standing at a crossroads, wondering what the hell I'm doing out here. We're gonna get a low pressure that's gonna set up at the surface near the Colorado-New Mexico border. We have ample 500 millibar or mid-level flow, and inside of that a little bit of a short wave, which means, a long wave is, a big trough across a continent on that scale, which is the bigger form, and then a short wave is embedded within those longer waves, little kinks, and those kinks are sometimes a favorite for severe weather, and I think we're going to get one of those kinks through the confluence between the Texas Panhandle, the Oklahoma Panhandle, Kansas, Colorado, and New Mexico. So somewhere in there. We're expecting some possible discrete storms forming along the dry line. That's going to form from this area on south. I'm going to set up fairly close to the triple point where the dry line, warm front, and cold front intersection are going to meet up near the low pressure, and hope that we get a storm that fires off in a fairly good environment here, which it should be, and stays discrete. I don't like storms that fight each other because they end up being short-lived, tornado potential ends up being limited, or you're just fighting weather just to stay ahead of it and hope that you see something. Not my favorite speed of fruit of chasing. I'd like to see discrete storms produce tornadoes for periods of time, even if they're brief. If the storm stays discrete, it stays fun to chase. Yeah, Thursday came really close down in Lubbock. I saw a couple of dust-ups down there. One probable tornado, a weak tornado, but yeah, that storm stayed nice and discreet, and I want to see more of that. Hopefully we'll get that today. If not, there's tomorrow, the next day, and the day after that, and maybe the day after that. But that prime rib, man, was so good. I want more prime rib. But I need another tornado before I can eat steak again. That's the rule. That's the rule. The latest cam models are showing that I'm in pretty much the right spot. That, and since everything south of us has completely gone to crap already, storms have fired up very early from just south of Interstate 40 all the way down into south. Up here isn't trashed yet. We've got a capped warm sector right here, and I'm just staring at some cumulus clouds. Still a few hours out. I think we're about 3 hours away from storms actually firing up in this area, which is good. We need it to be later. Need time for the surface winds to back and for instability to increase. And then we get a storm. And that storm probably goes up into Kansas. At sometime between now and then, we maybe see a tornado today. But I'm not holding my breath. It seems like this week is gone from litness to just crud. Not, lacking severe weather, but just lacking discrete supercell storm modes and tornadoes, stuff that I want to see.
A small, promising storm began to form not far from Campo, Colorado, which isn't far from my position. Time to go pound some dirt. This storm would slowly get its act together in the mid-afternoon sun. The environment, for now, remains healthy enough to produce tornadoes later in the day.
Nice little storm starting to form in extreme eastern Colorado. Oh, hey bird. Scared up an eagle or something. Anyway, it's absolutely beautiful out here. Yellow flowers everywhere. on a dirt road.
Storms really don't care if there's a grid of horrible, rutted dirt roads, and oftentimes storms move northeast. This combination can make keeping up with even slow-moving storms more of a challenge than it seems like it ought to be. Unfortunately, time is running out. A bunch of messy rain showers are moving north out of the Texas Panhandle and threaten to completely ruin all tornado potential. A brief, uncondensed landspout formed just to the side of me and made contact with the ground. However, the mess from the south arrived, and sure enough, the storm began to lose strength.
Well, that was fun while it lasted. All of them. All dirt.
But in an ironic twist, that garbage convection from the south began producing multiple mesoscale funnel clouds. Time to take the truck for a bath. No, a real bath. While heading to Garden City, a bright double rainbow formed. Inside of the bright main bow, supernumerary, or interference rainbows can form. It takes rain droplets of just the right size to create these. The science behind their formation is complex, but here is a visual cue completely in nature that light behaves as a wave, not just as a particle. I also spotted the loneliest Dollar General I've ever seen.
Oh, well, good morning yet again. May 26th, Sunday morning, up in Garden City, Kansas this morning. I'm headed west to Lamar, Colorado. Yesterday was really fun. I met up with a dozen other chasers. I had some Mexican food and a couple margaritas. Passed out kind of early, and the last thing I looked at before I went to bed was just the absolute hype that the models are predicting for today. The last few days have felt like they just haven't overperformed. I guess I don't know. It was really good yesterday. Don't get me wrong. It was a really good storm chase yesterday, but did not produce tornadoes over just absolutely amazing terrain with no people around like I wanted to see. There were no tornadoes. Everything grew upscale very quickly. And there was a lot of interference from down south from storms that came up out of the Texas Panhandle and sort of merged with the storm that I was chasing. So that ended our chase pretty early. I think it was only like 5 or 6 o'clock and it was all over. So I don't know. I kind of don't like these storm chase days that end early, because it's like the potential for tornadoes increases as you get later in the day, especially if you already have a storm going. You know, if there's a storm already in progress, a supercell at 6 p.m., that's prime time. That's when things really get going. It's not that tornadoes are rare earlier than that at all. They're not rare at all. It's just they're more common after 6 o'clock, and it's because of the low-level jet kicking in the evening. Low to mid-level winds that increase in intensity as the sun sets. One of these days I'll go over the meteorological reasons why that happens, but suffice it to say that as the sun sets and the air starts to cool a little bit near the surface, the winds kick up, and that expands the shear that's in the storm environment to an exceptional degree. So going from, good enough to produce a supercell to good enough to produce a tornado is typically what happens as the low-level jet kicks in.
Things were immediately off to a bad start, with storms forming too early.
I guess, yeah. Oh, geez, there's like a cell way out in frickin' New Mexico on upslope.
New Mexico, it would quickly seem, was the better target today. 2 uninteresting storms later, a powerful hail machine would form near EADS. I'll need to wait behind this one for a bit and join the conga line later. Let me just sneak right past you there. Due to sparse roads in Colorado on what was at one time a high potential day, resulted in storm chaser convergence.
All right, I'm right in the thick of it here. Rainbows everywhere. There's a possibility of a tornado forming just on the other side of this.
It also means I really only have this one great shot, sitting right under the mesocyclone to hope that this produces a tornado right next to me. Oh.
Hi, Daniel Shaw.
This storm would try many times to produce a tornado, but it was becoming clear that the chances for a photogenic tornado were pretty small. Several chasers at this moment would report a ground circulation below this rotating, ugly funnel, technically making this a tornado. Storm chasers refer to weak or generally unimpressive tornadoes as birdfarts. And I'm going to need a better way to keep track of these things. And there goes another storm chase. A 15 hatch tornado day and just one minor tornado for me. Let me check in with my buddy Brandon and see how New Mexico is working. What?
A long track, significant tornado outside Causey, New Mexico.
I've never seen a tornado like this.
Wow. Very strong tornado.
Every so often, going against the consensus yields a big career tornado day. I know how that feels too. Before I finish my 2019 Chasecation series, it's time to grade my 2019 tornado forecast. The gist of my January forecast was, look for tornado activity to shift west for storm chasing potential, and early season tornadoes on the high plains were a possibility. While the early season saw lots of action, it primarily stayed in the deep south, not where it was expected by me. The eastern ridge failed to materialize earlier, opening the door for tornado potential to shift south and east. By May 1st, several subseason events began to unfold, strengthening the potential for an especially active May on the high plains. And boy, did that happen. If we just look at the last 2 weeks of May, during the height of the somewhat historic 2019 tornado outbreak sequence, we can see that indeed activity was focused well west. However, things overall were further south than earlier analogs I had identified. Outbreak days focused on Ohio and northeast Oklahoma rather than Nebraska and Iowa. This also kept activity out of the Dakotas, which was also somewhat unexpected considering similar seasons like 2010. But that's just 2 weeks in May. For the whole season, we can indeed see a minima around the Ohio and Mississippi valleys. and a maxima over Oklahoma, Texas, and Kansas. However, those early deep south events created another major maxima that didn't show up in my analog past years. Overall, tornado numbers were quite high, while I was expecting just average numbers. Most of the other areas of orange and blue aren't particularly significant, and a relatively quiet hurricane season for Florida led to lower counts there. I give myself an overall grade of a B-. Check out my 2020 forecast video from this past January to see how I'm doing so far with this year. Thanks for watching, and I'm already done with part 3. I'll be uploading that in a couple of days, and you'll see it on the screen right here when I do. Subscribe for more videos like this, or check out what else I have going on here on this channel.